Okay, folks, today we're going to be talking about the Ryzen 9 5950X processor. I've had this processor since the day it launched. You can see by the teared up box, it got ripped in customs, and I actually got this basically for 640 quid. That was the price I paid for it. They're currently retailing at about 700, 750. It's a pretty damn expensive processor. It's arguably basically the best processor money can buy. And today I'm here to give you sort of a quick and dirty and simple, was it worth it and what does it allow me to do? Now, my approach with reviews is to get the product, use it for a long time, and then research it, learn all the facts, do all the graphs, read about everything, do all of the work, but then just spit it back out to you in a open and honest, down to earth sort of average Joe approach. I'm not going to baffle you with graphs. I'm not going to baffle you with all kinds of information. People seem to like when I do a review that's a bit more down to earth. When they find my channel, they seem to say, I like the way you explained it, so I'm just going to stick with it. So just trust me when I say these things. I've done a lot of research on them, but I won't bore you with it. Okay, so what is the use case for such a big PC processor? Well, I am a hobby slash enthusiast streamer slash YouTuber slash gamer, whatever you want to call it, right? Whatever the kids are calling it these days. Most evenings I'm streaming, so I guess you could call me that. Now, I am streaming in 720p 60 FPS. I'm often playing a modern title with the graphics quite high, and I'm averaging around, say, let's say 10 to 20 viewers, and I'm making YouTube content to around 75,000 to 100,000 people each month. So I'm on the very, very low end of numbers, but I'm an enthusiast and I enjoy it. Now, I was getting to the point with my old computer that the work I was doing and the streams I was doing wasn't enjoyable. The reason, and I'm sure you have all felt it, is you're playing a game off stream and it feels quite nice. Maybe you're on a low end system, medium end system, high end system. It doesn't really matter. You get your settings down and it feels quite nice. You turn on your stream, just doesn't feel great. You can tell that you're streaming. It feels like you're streaming, and it's that chugging, that sluggishness. It's that just doesn't quite feel right. And I was at a point with a 4-core i7 that I'd used for 8 years that it wasn't cutting it. It had 4 cores, it had 4 threads, and I was considering, where do I want to go with this? Now, the new consoles have 8 cores, and I believe that 8 cores will be the new minimum in a few years. And then if you're streaming on top, especially with just one PC like I am, just a singular PC, you're going to want 8 cores minimum, probably 10, right? So then I was looking at the 5900X, the 5800X, and obviously I'm looking at this. Now, I'm not sure I merit a 16-core CPU. After sort of analyzing all of the work that I do on the processor, I think a 5900X would suit me perfectly. So if you watch this video and everything sounds roughly similar to what I do, a 5900X is going to set you absolutely perfectly. If you do a little bit less, a 5800X might also set you perfectly. But let me just talk about this and you can make your mind up. So on this processor, I'm playing most likely a modern title. Black Ops Cold War, Warzone. I'm sometimes playing some older games like StarCraft 2, which is a more single-threaded application because that thing only works on like 2 cores at best. Sometimes I'm playing a game like Cyberpunk. Not anymore. Uninstalled it. Different video. But you know, I'm jumping around a variety of different games. You're always going to find something different. It could be an early access game. So some of these games don't run very well. Some of them don't utilize 16 cores at all. So you could argue, if you're just playing video games, this is pointless, and I agree. If you're just playing video games, don't buy this. There's no point. Save yourself some money, put it into something else, right? Get yourself a 5800X or something. If you're just playing games, get yourself a 5600X. I've done the numbers, just buy one of those and call it a day. If you're a single PC streamer that takes it a bit more seriously, such as myself, that has 11k subs on YouTube, 2.5k followers on Twitch. I average, like I say, 75k to 100k on YouTube each month, and just a low view count stream, 5 to 20 views at best, right? And I do it most days, so I enjoy it. Now, I wanted to get rid of that feeling of streaming. That horrible sensation when you play your game just doesn't feel right. Have I got rid of it? It's 99% gone. Now, I can tell that I'm streaming when I play with the 5950X, but my lord, is it different. So I can be playing a game and I'm getting 162 FPS on the cap of my G-Sync monitor. I turn this on, it might go to 140, 145, and it might bounce from 145 to 154, and I'm losing around 10 to 12 frames. But the important thing is, it doesn't feel awful. It doesn't really feel like I'm streaming at all, so I can actually enjoy playing the game. Focus on, I'm just playing the game, I've got my little chat off to the side, and I'm enjoying myself. Now, that's an expensive thing to do, to spend £650, £700 on. It feels like you're not streaming. But if you do it a lot and you can justify it with your budget, I'm telling you, it feels bloody fantastic to turn on your stream and not be like, okay, here's 5 hours of juddery, oh, I can feel I'm streaming gameplay. Now, because this is a 16-core CPU, it's got legroom. Like, you can be playing Modern Warfare, you can be playing whatever you want to play, whatever video game you're playing. It's using like 15% of the CPU playing the game. Right now, whilst I'm recording this, OBS, whilst I'm recording this video in 1080p, 30 megabyte with X264, it's using 1% of my processor. Like 1% of my processor is being used. Sorry, 1.27 is being used by the processor. So it's pretty good. It's pretty good stuff. Now, when it comes to playing games, you're going to lose, 10 or so frames, but it doesn't feel streamy, and that's important. Now, I play the game in 720p, 60 FPS. Whilst I'm playing the game, I can record my stream through OBS in another X264 with like 50 megabytes, 1080p, so it's upscaling it, and I'm recording. I know you shouldn't do that, but I do. And I can also shadow play. So it's running like 3 things at once, and it's fine. It doesn't feel like, oh god, it's going to crash, or oh, it feels super streamy. You might lose a bit of performance, and yeah, you can feel you're streaming like anybody could, because yes, you are streaming, but it is infinitely different. And that to me has been a godsend, because it makes playing enjoyable, which in turn makes your stream more enjoyable, at least for me. So I am rendering on my 4-core 4-thread i7. If I did let's say a 45-minute video, because I do quite long videos, it would basically be real time plus some. So I would be rendering a 45-minute video. It would take a good hour or so. This thing, it is like, if I render a 10-minute video, it's done in less than a minute. If I render an hour video, boom, 5-7 minutes, whatever, it's done. Whilst you're rendering, your computer's actually useful. Like, it doesn't just shut down. Like, I used to be like, I'm rendering now for 2 hours and I can't do anything. This thing's fine. I can play a game on top of another game and not realize. So that's how much headroom this has got. So I think I was playing Cold War, and then I was playing StarCraft 2 on top of it. And then after I finished my StarCraft 2 game, I was like, oh, Cold War's running in the background. And I'm streaming on X264 slow. So this thing has a tremendous amount of headroom, and it's great for that single PC use style. Now, I'll give you some things that I've done, and you can make your mind up, because a 5900X might just be perfect for you. So because I have a low quality internet, it allows me to stream on the X264 slow custom settings. This means that I basically can get really good quality out of 4000 bitrate. Now, I should be streaming at probably 8000, maybe 6000. I don't have the best internet. We're not all blessed to live in areas with Google Fiber. So, because I can stream and really slow that encoding down, I can get a pretty decent watchable stream. My stream quality compared to what I used to stream on is so much better. I'll get compliments on the stream quality, and better than that, I haven't had anybody come in and say, "Yo, bro, what's wrong with your quality?" which I used to get all the time. And I haven't changed the bitrate. I've just changed the way it encodes, and I can play on better settings without losing frame rate because I've got a stronger processor. So I found it to be, not only has it let me like just sit down, make a video and render it and be done and not have to leave my PC for 2 hours, I can also stream and enjoy it. And it's been a really, really decent chip. Now, some things that it allows you to do, because it's got a ton of headroom, is the following. So if I swap screens now, I've downloaded a program called Process Lasso. It's a great program. Basically, without boring you to death, I basically have OBS, which is my streaming program, set to use 8 cores. So it's just using 8 cores, right? And the game I play uses the front 8 cores. So you might be thinking, why have you bought an 8-core CPU, a 16-core CPU to only use 8 cores? Well, the reality is most games aren't really using more than 8 cores. I've done some tests, and letting it run on 12 to 16 cores, it may occasionally give me more frame rate, but very, very rarely. And I'm not really losing a lot of frame rate by shifting the game to be on the first 8 cores or 10, depending on which game I'm playing, and letting OBS run on 8 cores. Sometimes there's a bit of overlap, with the 10 and the 8. But it smooths everything out. So what I've ended up doing with the single PC setup is kind of like having 10 cores run the game, 8 to 10 cores, and then I'm having sort of 8 cores of OBS on its own. I tried to not overlap them, so the game is just playing on its own. And I found that to be really, really useful. It's even helped smooth out the quote feeling of streaming even more, and that's what this processor can do. So basically, the thing that I can say about this processor is, currently, at the time of recording in 2021, I'm feeling no limitation. So I spent £640 to feel no limitation for my workload. Now, yes, if you play, I don't know, some crazy stuff or whatever workload you do, it might not be the one for you. It might be something different. But for me, as a streaming processor, it's been perfect. It helps me make content. It helps me do general stuff. Like if you take a look at this, the score is going to be rubbish because I'm currently recording. But if you take a look at the temperatures, things to note about the processor, it does boost up to 5 gigahertz. I've changed some settings. I won't bore you with them. It basically boosts to 5 gigahertz. You can see on all cores it's boosting 4.8. When it's set to its default, it boosts to like 5, yada yada. It runs at idle, kind of warm for me. It's like 45C to 50C depending. And this thing can run like stink up until basically 90C. And it can get really, really hot. You're going to need some good cooling. But it just depends on how you tweak everything. I've got mine tweaked to a nice enough level. But you can see, even if we just run a Cinebench whilst we're chatting, and yes, the score will be lower because I'm currently streaming, but it just does everything fantastic. The score I got was 10,860, and on the single core on CPU-Z was 684. I was doing some testings today. If I bring you into the notepad, you can see I was doing testings of what the different settings were, default, overclock, yada yada. So even while streaming, in X264 slow at 1080p, I'm still hitting almost 10,000 Cinebench score, right? Which is better than, put it this way, an i7 7700K gets 2,400. So I'm almost 4 times, 3 or 4 times better than a 7700K, and I'm streaming, right? So I've had no problems with the chip. That's the review. If you're in the market and you've got a bit of budget and you're an enthusiast single PC streamer, or you just like to do a bit of content with no limits, and you're deciding 5800X, 5900X. Look, the 5900X is going to be brilliant. Like I say, not many things are using 16 cores. This could be classed as overkill. So the 5900X might just be the one for you. But if you're thinking about this and you've decided you're going to get it and you want somebody to turn you off it, I'm not going to turn you off it, because would I trade this down? No. Would I want something better than this? No. And that's where I feel like I'm in a good spot. If I don't want to trade it down and I don't want to trade it up, and I feel like I've got value for my money, even though it's expensive, I'm happy. And that's all I ask. So it is a bit expensive, but it does an absolutely stellar job. If you want to test your processor at home, remember I am streaming at the current time of recording. Download a program called CPU-Z. Load it up, hit the bench button, press bench, and I think when I wasn't streaming and I had my things tweaked, I was getting 13,000 on this and around 680 on the single thread. But even while streaming, having a chat with you guys, got some stuff open, if I go ahead and submit and compare this, and you'll see the temperatures here. The temperature's boosted up to 4.9. It reached a peak of just 71. So Cinebench running, stressing the CPU. It peaked at 71C. You can see that this is better than it's better than the 5900X by a little bit. 10900K, it wallops. Multi-threaded, it's not even close. There's nothing even in the same region as it. So it's just if you want to look at that, you go out and buy an 11900K and you want to multitask, this thing's doubling its score, right? You want to go single thread, toe to toe, 10900K, nothing stopping it, because it has such a high IPC. It's just brilliant. Like I wouldn't swap it. And they're coming back into stock, which is why I feel like I could do a review. Now listen, if I have waffled on and you've enjoyed this and you want to purchase a 5950X, then please do use my affiliate link, because that would be bloody lovely. I'll just be honest with you, that'd be fantastic. Or, things to note with this processor: get some good thermal paste. If you want a recommendation, Cryonaut Grizzly, link in the description. Get a case with a mesh front. Don't get a case that's all glass like a box oven with a glass front and some RGB. Get good fans, good mesh front. You never even look at your PC, even though you think you will. And enjoy it. It's a brilliant processor. I'm really pleased I purchased it. My last processor lasted me 8 years, so I'm the kind of guy that I always say I'm too broke to buy twice. I'd rather buy this and be happy for years and years and years than buy like a £400 processor and be like, I should upgrade and then upgrade my motherboard, and should I, I'd just rather buy once, do the research, enjoy the product. For me, I get a lot of enjoyment when I don't have to fucking fiddle with everything. I'll be real with you. I just want to buy the product and enjoy the damn thing and be like, this is really good, and not be tweaking stuff, right? I'll tweak it for a bit of fun occasionally, which I did today, but if you just want to get this out of the box, put it in, start streaming, you're going to be like, holy shit, this is pretty good. I can give you a bit of footage. of a stream quality, which might be a bit kind of washed because I am technically playing at the same time. But if I download this, this is kind of the stream quality you can expect. Now I'll full screen it and it will look kind of washed out because it's a 720p video. But honestly, for 4 megabytes internet, you're going to struggle to find a better looking stream than this. I'm telling you. You really are. You know when people run through grass on PUBG and in the distance you can't see people because it's struggling to pick out people? I'm on 4 megabyte internet. Now people that stream will be like, they'll know what I'm on about. This looks great for that. I'm telling you, it's bloody fantastic at streaming. So there's my sales pitch. Look, I'm even winning. Look at me peaking. Bang. So I think it's a great processor. Recommend it. That's the review. Don't need to go on. Don't need to throw graphs at you. Just having a general chit chat. Peace. Subscribe if you want some more.